Welcome to AutoCAD and the tricks and treats and the top 20 hits. Excuse me. Welcome to the Beyond the Classroom series presented by Imaginate Technologies. Happy Halloween! In today's agenda, we'll be covering, oh, that's better. We'll look at a brief introduction for today's live lecture topic, some quick learning objectives that we'll be covering throughout the session today, a brief presentation and demonstration. An overview for today's topic is AutoCAD tricks and treats. We'll be looking at varieties of the top 20 AutoCAD tips and tricks, where you'll gain a wicked insight into valuable and ghoulish AutoCAD best practices, including seldom used and enchanted commands, which will help you remedy those pesky repetitive tasks that always try to sneak up on you. And remember, double escape gets you out of trouble. The objectives that we'll be covering in this lecture topic are to learn the top 20 AutoCAD practices that you may have not known exist, discover the best usage for less common AutoCAD commands, and remove those pesky repetitive tasks. We'll start by talking about dim rotated, a tool that allows you to organize and rotate a dimension to fit an unusually shaped diagonal alignment. For dim rotated, choosing the dimension tool, dimension one point and then the next. We'll create a dimension that is not exactly aligned within the object. Using the dim rotated tool, choosing the specified angle first by picking this length of line, and then creating the dimension, we'll align the object along that length more appropriately. The Align tool allows you to move, rotate, and scale an object all at once with a single command. With the Align tool, it allows you to select a group of objects, right-click, specify your source point, which is this lower left-hand corner, then the destination source point, which would be this corner, then your secondary source point, which is here, and then your final source point, which is here. Click Finish. Yes, you want to realign the object, and then it organizes the object, shrinks it down, and it rotates it and moves at the same time, all within one tool. Next, we'll look at Quick Select. Right-click anywhere on your drawing window. In the shortcut menu, choose Quick Select, and you have a list of available properties that you can sort by and select various elements across your model with those same properties. You can filter by elements across the entire drawing or selected elements of different types of object, and again, those properties can be chosen based on the properties of the objects that you have selected. You have an operator that lets you choose between equals, does not equals, less than, greater than, and with various values. Click OK, and it has all of those elements selected at that point, ready for modification. Right-click anywhere on your drawing and choose Quick Select. Opens up a dialog box allowing you to specify applied to the entire drawing, or picking a group of content from selection and choosing from the object type drop-down list all of the types that are selected currently, and you can choose between color, layer, line type, and other properties related to all of the objects selected. For instance, if I choose color, I can say that the color equals, does not equal a specific color type. If I say by layer, then if I click OK, it will select all of the objects that are chosen to be by layer, which are a majority of them. Choosing Quick Select again of the entire drawing. If I only want to choose arcs, click OK. It has selected all arcs in the drawing. Then I can use a modification tool such as the Move tool, simply moving those away. I have selected all of the arcs in the drawing and move them to a certain distance, making it much easier to select content based on certain properties and types of objects. Right-click again, quick select, choose hatching based on color, again equals by layer, which is currently all of them. Moving them over to here, quick select once more, hatch again, color equals magenta, manipulate those, moving them again. very easily selecting a group of content based on certain properties. With Select Similar, left-click on any object. After selecting, right-click on that object and choose the Select Similar option in the right-click shortcut menu. This will automatically select other objects across the drawing with the same similar properties. This makes it much easier to select elements of the same type across your drawing very quickly. Additionally, you can type in the command Select Similar, one word, and it gives you different settings options for various choices on which properties to similarly select of for those objects. Right-click on any existing object and choose Select Similar. We'll select all objects across the entire drawing of that type with similar properties, making it very easy to select groups of content of the same types, manipulating them all at once, or changing them to something different. Typing in the commands of Select Similar. Typing the command of Select Similar will open the command line, allowing you to choose Settings, which will give you a dialog box, allowing you to choose which basis that the Select Similar is used by for color, layer, line type scale, line weight, plot style, object style, or name of object. Picking any of these will change how the behavior of Select Similar affects what is selected similarly. Next, a grouping of more tricks. The burst command will explode a block or object without losing any of its attributes. In copy will copy any line work from an X reference or nested object into the current drawing. ID will display the coordinate points throughout the worksheet of any object. Spell is a spell check for all text. Xclip will trim a block's visibility area using a boundary line. The wipeout command will set a boundary of lines for an object that will blank out the area behind it, masking everything behind the wipeout area. Burst allows you to select a block, explode it while retaining its layer properties and the attribute properties that were set for it. Normally, when you explode a block, it will turn it into its original components, which is the layer that was originally created in, and the attributes will revert back to its original attribute type, not keeping the information included with it. In copy allows you to select a block, choose portions inside of that block, and copy them out separately from the block as individual objects, where they can then be manipulated, controlled as usual. Type ID and choose any point on your drawing. Will display the coordinate point at your cursor and in the command line of that exact point, where you can copy and paste it to a different location. Spell will open the spell checking tool inside of AutoCAD, where you can choose to spell check your entire drawing. Selected objects, choose Start, and it'll go through the entire drawing, choosing all of the words that it thinks are spelled incorrectly, where you can choose to change them from a list of options or suggestions. If it is correct, you can choose to ignore it. You can also choose to add to dictionary, so that if the word is spelled correctly, but it's an industry-specific word that is not in a typical dictionary, you can add it to the dictionary, so it will always spell it correctly, and you will look like a professional because things are spelled correctly. Next is Xclip. Selecting a block, right-click allows you to create a polygon boundary around the object as a rectangle or polygon, and will mask out a portion of it, clipping it apart. You can also manipulate and control that, changing its position. Lastly is Wipeout. Allows you to draw a polyline between multiple points, which will mask out and wipe out all objects behind it. The wipeout object can be controlled and manipulated by moving the line work over. Will reveal a portion of the object that is being masked and wiped out behind it. Next, with CH Space or Change Space, this is a very nice tool that allows you to push content from paper space into the model space viewport behind it with the exact same scale factor equivalence that it was shown in the viewport paper space area. If you've accidentally drawn content in paper space, expecting it to be in model space, you no longer have to draw it over again, just push it through the window. If you've ever been working through a viewport on a sheet and you start drawing content, and then realize that that content was accidentally created in the paper space layout instead of in the model space, so that it doesn't show up in the model area, you don't have to fret anymore. All you have to do is type CH space, select the object that you want to move, hit enter, and it automatically pushes it through the viewport window into the model space area at the correct scale and size, so that you don't have to redraw it any longer, which has saved me many times. A few text tips: matching text orientation to your layout, selecting a group of text, make sure that it's all set to annotative. Then you can set the orientation to the layout so that the text is oriented to whatever layout you have set, regardless of the angle and rotation of the viewport. Next, T-orient allows you to align text and annotation to any angle all at the same time. Lastly, TXT to MTXT, or text to MText, allows you to join multiple single-line text elements into a single multi-line text without having to retype everything over again. In a rotated viewport, selecting the text inside of the viewport itself, go to the Properties window, make sure that the text is set to be annotative, and then change Match Orientation to Layout option from No to Yes, and it will match the orientation of the layout itself, in this case at 0 degrees orientation. Looking in model space, selecting a group of text here, type T-orient, choose a group of text, select the angle that you want the text to be rotated of 0, and it rotates them all at the same time to the same angle, even across multiple single-line pieces of text. Text to MText, TXT to MTXT command, select a group of disassociated single-line text, hit enter, and it joins them all together in a single multi-line text object, but you need to make sure that the text has been placed in the right orientation. The Shift key is your best friend in AutoCAD. Using the Shift key with multiple various tools will give you a secondary option that you didn't know existed. Hold down Shift and right-click within a drafting command. We'll select an Object Snap drop-down list where you can choose a specific object snap overriding all others. Hold down Shift at any time to temporarily enable ortho mode. Hold down Shift and left-click to deselect objects once they're selected. Hold down Shift while chamfering, hold down Shift while using the trim command, and it enables the extend command, and vice versa. Within an existing draw tool, hold down Shift and right-click, which gives you a list of specified object snap options. Choosing any one of these will disable all of the others until the next click is selected. So for instance, if I choose midpoint, at this time only midpoint options are available. Everything else is disabled. If I left click here on a midpoint, all other object snaps are turned on back, are re-enabled again. Shift right click. I can continue to use this process as many times as I wish. Choose center point, only center points are selected. Left click and places the line drawing it from one point to the next. When you are selecting content, continue to select objects one at a time. Hold down the Shift key and it lets you remove objects from select. In any command for drafting, hold down the Shift key to enable ortho mode temporarily without turning it on permanently. Release Shift and it's back to non-ortho mode, individually selecting or using crossing or window selection content. While in the chamfer tool, pick two adjacent lines and it will chamfer those together. While in the chamfer tool also, hold down the Shift key and reduces the angle back to 0. Within the fillet command, set a radial distance, fillets those elements together, fillet again, hold down the Shift key, removes the radius, setting it back to a 0 to vertex intersection or 90-degree angle. Within the trim or extend command, so for instance if I'm in the extend command, I can extend objects indefinitely, or hold down the Shift key and it turns into the trim command without having to end the extend command at all. Next, looking at keyboard shortcuts, allowing you to function more efficiently using just your keyboard without going to the ribbon menus. Looking at function key shortcuts, cut, copy, and paste shortcuts to your clipboard, and also using match properties. With your keyboard, the function keys are very useful. F1 will open the help dialog box for your version of AutoCAD, looking for any topics or subtopics that you can search for. F2 will open up the command line and expand to show previous history data. Hit it again and it releases. F3 will turn object snaps on and off. F4 turns 3D object snaps on and off. F5 turns isometric planes on and off. F7 turns your grids on and off. F7 turns ortho. F8 turns ortho mode on and off. F10 turns polar tracking on and off. F11 turns object snap tracking off. And F12 turns dynamic input on and off. Learning these keyboard shortcuts will become very useful. Selecting a group of content, right-click. Under Clipboard, you have Cut, Cut with Base Point, Copy, Copy with Base Point, Paste, and Paste as Block. Each of those have a keyboard shortcut equivalent. Control-X is Cut. Undo to bring that back. Control-C is Copy to Clipboard, which will let you use Control-V to paste it over and over again, including into another drawing. Control-Shift-C will let you choose a base point with your next click, and then Control-Shift-V will let you paste the object as a block. Notice that the base point is here, and it's also turned into a block. If you ever notice that blocks are labeled with a name that looks like this, $, and some random characters, that is typically because it was generated by a paste as block option, where AutoCAD arbitrarily names and labels the block with that condition. MA is also match properties, selecting an initial object and choosing a group of other objects will cause those line work elements to share the same properties. This also works across multiple drawings. Select a source from this drawing, go to another drawing, and you can match the properties to multiple objects. Some tips for layers. Using the Layer Walk tool will show you a dialog box with all layers in the project, and selecting individual layers will display them in the background. Choosing multiple layers will select all of those layers to be visible, and closing of the dialog box will also change all of the layers to display those that are currently selected or revert back to its original setting. Saving layer states allows you to record a position of all of the layers, whether they're on, off, frozen, thawed, locked or unlocked, colors, and so on. And you can save those in different configurations and revert back to those at any time. Viewport Layer Freeze allows you to freeze individual layers through the viewports, only through that viewport, turning things on and off, changing colors that do not affect the model space environment. You can also create an external export into Excel as a table that you can review all the properties of and share with other users, print out, or email as well. In the Layer Panel drop-down list, Layer Walk shows all the layers in the drawing. Any that are highlighted are currently active. Picking individual layers one at a time will show them displayed in the background. And you can pick multiple layers holding down the Control or Shift key, and they will all be turned on visibly at the moment. You have an option down here where it says Restore on Exit. Click Restore on Exit. Click Close, and it'll restore everything back to the way it was before. Choose Layer Walk again, select a group of layers, uncheck the option where it says Restore and Exit, click Close, gives you a warning that says some layer states might change when you close this. So you need to be careful with this, because if you click Continue, some layers would have been turned off that were already on, and that can mess you or someone else up in the drawing. Make sure you choose correctly with that. Go to the Layer Properties Manager. In the upper left-hand corner, choose Layer States Manager. Opens up a dialog box where you can create a new layer state option. Initially, when you create layer states, you want to save one from the existing layer state that is currently set. So I'm going to choose New, and I'll call it Existing Layers. So that when you go to a different layer state, give it a description if you wish. You can edit that list at any time, which will let you choose what the layers are set to at any time. So if I choose all layers, change them to green, choose Restore, it brings everything from that layer state into effect. And anytime you can go back to the Layer State Manager, choose Existing Layers, restore those again, and brings everything back to the way it was currently. You can also initiate that from the Layer dialog box, choosing whichever layers you want. They can be off, some of them can be thawed, some of them can be locked, and their colors can be changed. Any of these changes that you make can be stored inside of a layer state. Choose Layer State Manager again, create a new one, Layer Chaos, and that's how it looks right now, but I can always bring it back to the original set by restoring it. Very useful, especially if you are afraid that you or someone else are going to mess up the layers that are currently set up for it. And if you have a lot of layers in your drawing, very good idea to use the Layer States Manager. Clicking inside of an existing viewport, select a group of content, go to the Layer Properties Manager, and in the layer properties, you have the normal properties of on, off, freeze, and thaw, color. You also have VP color, VP line weight, VP line type, and VP freeze. VP color, for instance, I can select all the objects and change the color of everything in the view to be magenta. And you can see how everything in that view becomes that magenta color. Switch to a different dialog box or a different viewport. In this viewport, select a few objects and change their VP freeze to selected, which will freeze those layers currently and only within that viewport. Any of the changes that I'm making, if I go back to the model space, they have not affected the model space area. They are only affecting that viewport itself, which is very useful, allowing you to modify content only through that viewport, allowing you to set up the sheet however you need. Click into a different viewport, select more content, change those VP color to, and again it changes only the content in that view, while the rest of the content stays the same throughout the model space. All layers in the model space still must be on and thawed, so that they are visible in every viewport where they can be modified through VP freeze. While still in the layer dialog box, select all the layers, use Control-C to copy all the layers to your clipboard, go to an open database file such as Excel, simply select into a blank Excel file, use Control-V, and it will paste all of the data from the layer dialog box. Now you can use this information in any text format that you want, printing it out, sending it to a colleague or client or friend for use inside of their documents. Since you cannot easily share information in the text format from the Layer Properties Manager, they have included that option for you. With tips for views, you can save a view and return back to that at any time from the Name Views drop-down list, creating as many different saved view locations as you wish, helping to organize locations in your drawing that can easily be referred back to, especially in a large campus or building area that can be confusing to find the correct location. You can also locate those same view named positions through a viewport and establish that viewport from the named view. You can also use in-canvas controls within a viewport and set up different view orientations, view styles, and other settings from that viewport condition. In Model Space, going to the View tab, Name Views panel, choose New View, giving it a name. View category is none, view type is still. Define window, draw a box around the area that you want to define, and hit the Enter key to accept it. Closes that dialog box, click OK, create a few more. After those views have been stored, using the Name View drop-down list, you can choose different view locations, which will jump directly to that space where the view was saved. This makes it very easy to jump back and forth between different locations on your drawing, especially if you're using a large, sprawling campus of a building, where it's easy to get disoriented and lost Within the spaces, you can save specific areas that you're interested in and refer back to them at any time. You can also use name views within a sheet where you have multiple viewports created here, all of the same view. Zoom to extents. Double-click into one of the views. In the upper left-hand corner is what's called in-canvas control options. The second option where it says top, click on that, and you have custom model views where you have that same list of views that were just created. Choose each one, and it zooms directly into that space. This makes it much easier to set up your viewports for the correct locations when you're setting up sheets. It does not set the scale factor accurately though. You still want to set those appropriately after setting the viewports. And then as always, make sure you lock the view. With more tips, the sketch command allows you to freehand sketch lines on your drawing. The time command will display all current drawing statistics for creation date last updated and edit times. Save all will save all drawings open at once. Close all will close all drawings at once. Menu bar will switch between the new and old style of the file menu. Type sketch gives you a few properties at the bottom and also allows you to use your cursor to sketch. Once you have that completed, hit enter, and it has created a sketch line work with incremental line segments, each of them as a separate line work. Save all will allow you to save all documents that are open at the same time. That also works by right-clicking in the View tab window and choose Save All. Close All will close all open documents down to your start screen. Menu bar 0 or 1 will activate the File tab menu system of the historical version of AutoCAD. Menu bar 0 will return that back to the large AutoCAD A symbol with the newer file menu system. And with even more tips, in an M-text or multi-line text window, selecting a group of text and choose the change case option will allow you to change all of the text at one time to either uppercase or lowercase if you accidentally type them all in the wrong case type. Image clip allows you to crop a portion of an image loaded in the drawing. Classic XREF will use the old style X-reference command dialog box. Set by layer will set the properties of all objects selected to by layer selecting a group of M-text inside of the dialog box. Select all the text. In the text editor panel, under formatting, case drop-down list, choose uppercase or lowercase. We'll switch all the characters to that case setting. Type image clip, select an existing placed image, create a new boundary, draw the new boundary across the image. We'll clip that portion of the image off, and you can modify moving the boundary at any time. Type classic XREF. We'll show you an existing XREF Manager dialog box that looks more like the older style, where you can attach and create as many X references as you want to. Type XREF. We'll show the new dialog box style. Set by layer. Select group of objects with not by layer properties set for it. Select those objects, change them all, click yes, changes them all to be by layer for whatever the layer is set to. With tip number 20, we will start talking about submissions and getting your projects out the door, starting with creating the setup of your prints using the Page Setup Manager. You can set up all of your sheets with correct sizing, plot setups through the Page Setup dialog box. From the File menu, Print, choose Page Setup, opens the Page Setup Manager dialog box where you can see all of the existing sheets. Each of them can have a page type set up for them, or you can create your own new page setup that you can apply to other sheets as you're publishing later. Choosing New, give it a name, click OK. We'll open a dialog box where you can choose the page setup settings for you. Choose your paper size from a drop-down list, the plotter installed or name, the plot area, offset, scale factor, plot style table or pin setting, any other properties you want to establish. Make sure you preview so that it looks correct. Click X, choose OK, and you have a new page setup established. You can also modify existing ones and import page setups from other drawings. Continuing with submission, we'll look at publish. That allows you to select multiple drawings and sheets to print and publish at the same time, either exporting them to PDF files or printing them to a physical printed document. From the File menu drop-down list, choose the Publish button. Opens the Publish dialog box where you can choose all of the existing layout sheets and model space environments. Each sheet you can set a page setup for. Make sure that all of these sheets are the same sheet size so that the page setup is exactly the same. If they're different, you'll need to set a different page setup for it. You can also add and remove elements from this list. So you can remove model space and other layouts. Click plus, and you can also add more documents to this list, including other DWG files with other layout sheets. So you can actually publish multiple drawings at the same time. You can choose how to publish it as a DWF PDF option, or you can print to the plotter or printer that the page setup has set for it. You can include a plot stamp. Once you have everything established, choose the publish option and all of your sheets will be printed at that time. Lastly, talking about submission, we'll look at e-transmit, which will package all of your documents selected with DWG files, X references, image files, and text formats, all packaging them into a single zip file that you can send easily to a submission, colleague, or client. Once you're ready to send a package of files to a client or another colleague or another company, go to the File menu, Publish, Flyout, choose e-transmit. This will list all of the content that makes up this drawing, allowing you to package it all together into a single zip file. You can see a list of all of the content attached to this document. You can review a transmittal setup. You can modify how the information in the e-transmit is established and what it's published under, where it's saved. You can also view a report with all of the data and included information that will go into the e-transmit, including any text formatted content that is required to prepare and open the document, so it looks exactly the same on your computer as it will when someone else opens it on theirs. You can see a file tree. You can include or remove options from this list, and you can also add more file documents. Once you're ready, click OK. It will ask you where you want to save that zip file. Click Save and it'll run through a process, saving that e-transmittal, and you can send it to another person and be assured that all of the content prepared for that document is included.